Tolkien disliked allegories and the use between his books and real life. Now, while many agree with this, and I do personally too, it's very hard to escape the fact that things add up, and when things add up, they're going to be made allegories. They're going to be turned into real-life situations. The stories from the books, even the movies, are going to be translated into a sort of modern thinking to kind of, parody or sync up with events and cultures and ideas that happen now. So this is going to be one of my very many talks that I'm going to have on Tolkien-style Tolkien talks. And if I say Tolkien, the pronunciations, I'm sorry. It's a big problem here. I learned to say Tolkien very young, so it's going to be hard to break it. So mind yourself, guys. Anyway, Tolkien has a very, very, very specific place in a green land called the Shire. It's positioned in the north of Middle-earth called Arnor or Eriador, and it's protected. It's been, isolated ever since the fall of that great kingdom after a very terrible and bloody war. See, what happened was all the men practically died or grew very thin around there, except for the neighboring city of Bree, and the hobbits are like this kind of pre- or, present Victorian-era style culture, but they're based on agriculture, not on industry. In fact, industries played in very, very bad terms in Tolkien's world, as regards to Mordor and Isengard, and Melkor the Great and Evil of the Silmarillion. The Shire is based on growing things. They have their own version of tobacco, pipeweed, they got fruits, vegetables, all that kind of stuff. They even have their own plumbing systems, as alluded to, I believe, in the first Hobbit film. They also even have postage. So these guys, they're pretty well-to-do. They're very, they're not poor agricultural. They're elevated. They're smart and simple. But the problem is, they don't like adventures. And you know what this kind of pairs up to is, they're isolationists. They don't like people coming in. They stare at them. And they say, go leave, technically. Look at that sallow-faced, stranger. Which is funny, because a lot of the bad guys in Tolkien's world are these sallow-faced, like, orc-looking guys. And they also don't like hobbits leaving. So they're like, no emigrating, no immigrating. This is it. Then they don't enforce it. They're just very much against it as a culture. So that's why when Frodo and Samwise and Pippin and Merry Brandybuck, they go out on their adventures with the Fellowship, and they all split various ways, and they come back to the Shire. They come back to this homogeneous, used-to-be peaceful land, and they find that the once defeated puppet of Sauron, Saruman, the White Wizard, now of the many colors, he's a little... And he and his lackey, Grima Wormtongue, have been keeping secret contact with these, you could call them globalist hobbits, who are the greedy Lotho and Lobelia Sackville Bagginses. They're Bilbo's relatives, which are, Frodo's relatives. And they have sold out, really, the Shire and Hobbiton and all that area, Brandybuck, and they have sold it out to Saruman and his guys. And the guys that Saruman has, they're not just normal men. They're not just the white men of Middle-earth. They're almost like half orc, half goblin. They're yellow and very leering and sallow, kind of swarthy and sweaty. They're just gross. I don't know if Tolkien was racist. He probably wasn't. But in all his books, the good guys are white. Anyway, even the elves. There's no black elves. But the hobbits are under pressure. You see that a couple of them have actually been killed or disappeared that tried to speak up about it. Just like how nowadays we're being censured. And those that speak up, like, Seth Rich of the, DNC, they're being killed. Okay? They're being silenced. And the media guys silenced. But, they're all afraid. But these hobbits come back. The 4 battle-born hobbits, you could say. And they're like, hey, we gotta change this. What the hell's going on here? And, all the other hobbits like, don't do anything. There's big men in control. They're big. They're scary. But the problem is, the men don't have strength in numbers just because they're big and scary. It kind of puts a mental block on these hobbits who are naturally afraid or wary of humans. And that's very much how today is. We, the white people, are still a majority in this country. We, the right-wing trad chads, we are still a majority in this country, and we have something we can do about that. Yet we're so afraid about the shekel spreaders and those that the Soroses. We're so afraid to stop them because the laws that are evil, the culture that is evil, the news, the media that is evil, is we think that it's too big, and we don't want to upset anybody. We're too comfortable. We're like the hobbits. We're scared of the big men. So eventually, Frodo, Sam, and Pippin, and Merry, they all go to their respective parts, and they rally up the hobbits. They arm them, and they fight the big men, and there's a big battle in like this, I think it's called Bagshot Row, around that area, something like that. And they defeat the big men, they slay a lot of them, they force the other ones off. Then they go to Saruman, who's hiding in, I think it's Bilbo's old home, with Grima, and Grima, who's practically kicked around so much by Saruman, stabs him. He stabs the ancient white wizard, and Grima is then shot by hobbits. And the hobbits regain their own homogenous culture back. They kick out the men, and they force their immigration laws, and I think they even remember this day as like the big day. Like they're nationalistic hobbits. They're not just peaceful, you know what I mean? They get the job done when it has to get done. And even Aragorn, the new awesome king of the reunited kingdom, he says, without permission can no man enter the Shire, and without permission I can't even enter the Shire. So he is putting laws on himself, on these nationalistic, very border secured hobbits, and he does it to protect them, and also to make everyone happy. Because Aragorn realizes that you can't just have a bunch of men living in with hobbits unless it's natural. And like Bree is much different. That has been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. That's like the Swiss, basically. There's all these different ethnicities, languages living side by side, and that's natural. They grew up that way. But we're not going to change that, and we're not going to try to change that. We're not going to do, what do they call that, social engineering on these poor little hobbits. So he says, you know what, everybody gets along by themselves. Gondorians with Gondorians, Rohirrim with Rohirrim, Men of Dale with Dale. You don't see Men of Dale dating, dwarf women. Ugh, good lord. You don't see orcs moving into Minas Tirith and saying, the new face of Gondor, Meet these immigrants. They're hardworking. Don't discriminate. They're just, orcs, and they're black, and they kill things, and they, but just because they do that doesn't mean they're bad. It's because the Gondorian culture is false. No! You don't see that happening in Tolkien's world, and definitely not under the rule of the reunited kingdom in the Shire. So, as we see, this is, the first of many parallels you'll find, and the hobbits, they got a good thing going. They do. My only word of advice for this new Amazon show that's coming out is that don't put any LGBT stuff. Don't put, diversity into it. If you're going to put diversity into it, do it where it counts and where it actually is. Okay, the men of the East, who are all evil, they're all black and yellow and Hispanic or whatever. They ride elephants, have turbans, and they sing weird warbling war chants. Let those guys be the diverse guys, because they are diverse, okay? Gondorians, well, they're tall, they're brown-haired, or black-haired, they got nice blue or gray eyes. Rohirrim are blonde or brown-haired, they're not as tall. But you see, there's no black people there. They never talk about it. Everyone's white, okay? Don't screw that up, okay? Just because you want to include stuff. And if you really just hate white people that much, maybe have the Easterlings, the black Easterlings, or the Muslim-looking Easterlings with the turbans. Let them kick some Gondorian butt, and that actually happens. So actually put in maybe some scenes where the Easterlings win. Or, the orcs win, because they're also black. Oh, jeez. Tolkien's racist. Cry me a river, baby. So, guys, hope you like this, and as always, stay safe out there, okay? And tune in for more Tolkien Talks later. Bye-bye.